Good afternoon, folks. Welcome back to the Food for the Faithful channel with me, Bill Reimer, your reluctant prophet. I had some things that I wish to clear up today. There are several myriad misunderstandings, and partly as a result, or maybe perhaps as a major result of postmodernism, it is so difficult to understand one another today, and the nature of rhetoric and debate. So today's topic is a lesson in debating. The nature of debate and its philosophical origins is the title. The roots of modern debate, especially the kind that weaves in ethics, epistemology, and ontology, goes straight back to ancient Greece. Socrates received the credit for the real breakthrough. He turned argument into a tool for truth-seeking, not just winning an argument. His method involved questioning everything, aimed at exposing contradiction. Basically, epistemology in action. He didn't care about sides. He cared about what is. That's why Plato, his student, wrote it all down and made dialogue the backbone of philosophy. Aristotle took it even further. He systematized rhetoric, how to persuade ethically, while grounding using syllogisms, an instance of a form of reasoning in which a conclusion is drawn, whether it is valid or not valid, from two given or assumed propositions, premises, each of which shares a term with a conclusion and shares a common or middle term not present in the conclusion, fallacies. And ontology, which is what exists and what doesn't exist. His use of rhetoric is still the playbook. Ethos, which is credibility, pathos, which is emotion, logos, which is reason. Without him, debate stays street corner yelling, or like 99% of the responses on my Facebook profile. Adding to these tools comes the modern version from both the Renaissance and Enlightenment people. Philosophers such as Locke, Hume, and Kant brought empiricism and skepticism into the mix. They asked, how do we know and what do we know? As a result, debate was no longer merely about gods or kings. Rather, it investigates evidence, doubt, and moral reasoning. Therefore, Socrates invented the spirit, Aristotle the structure, and the Enlightenment gave it teeth. But if you want a single name, it's Aristotle. He's the one who made debate a science, not a sport. So why the Monty Python sketch on the argument clinic applies to the lamentable lack of reasoned discourse on social media. The Monty Python argument clinic sketch, sometimes called Buying a Debate, is both silly and funny for several classic Monty Python style reasons. So here's what makes it work. Number one, it mocks formal bureaucratic systems. The idea that you can purchase an argument like buying a bus ticket is already absurd. The sketch exaggerates how institutions can turn even the most human, spontaneous things, like disagreements, into rigid, transactional services. Number two, constant subversions of expectations. The customer wants a proper argument, but instead gets mere contradiction, abuse, and endless redirect through the offices. This back and forth frustration is funny because it plays with the audience's expectations of what an argument should or ought to be. Wordplay is number three, and logical silliness. The humor relies heavily on treating language in an overly literal way. For example, an argument isn't just a series of statements intended to establish a proposition. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. This circular logic is intentionally childish, yet is delivered in a very serious tone. That contrast is key to what makes it funny. 4. Deadpan delivery of the absurdity. Both characters treat the ridiculous situation with complete seriousness. A quirky reality I see echoed repeatedly on my social media feed. This straight-faced approach amplifies the absurd nature of the scenario, which is a Monty Python signature. 5. Relatable parody of real arguments. Part of the joke is that many real-life arguments do devolve into contradiction rather than reasoning. That sketch exaggerates this truth in a way audiences immediately recognize. I certainly do. Moreover, they recognize it because the number of times in one's life you are confronted with idiotic retorts rather than reasoned responses. 6. Escalation into nonsense. The customer keeps pushing for something reasonable, but the dialogue becomes increasingly surreal. I feel that every day in attempting to, reach people with reasoned discourse and facts and objective truth. The momentum of the nonsense keeps building, which is a common Python comedic tactic. So I'm going to give you an example from experience, which is only one of many. Yesterday, in the light of recent revelations from the Epstein files and the obvious harm that gender-affirming care is actually causing our children, I noted that the original experiments of transsexualizing children were conducted by none other than Dr. Joseph Mengele from Auschwitz. This has resulted in making today's multi-billion-dollar industry the direct progenitor of Mengele's heinous experiments. I pointed out that Epstein and many with whom he was associated stood to benefit financially from the gender industrial complex, who were themselves pedophiles. Moreover, that cultural Marxist gender theory is a carefully constructed neo-Marxist ideology whose aim is to destroy normativity. My interlocutor responded with, among many other remarks, with the following: that I owed a debt of gratitude to Canada and therefore ought not to complain about my government despite its association with such vile ideological nonsense which is harming children. Then he went on to state how much happier I was when I was booking music and playing harmonica. As to the first point, my love of country causes me to defend peace, order, and good government, not neo-Marxist ideological possession. This man was unable to disassociate my love of country from my concern that my government had become ideologically captured. Secondly, when you're entertaining a crowd, it is your job to appear happy, since the audience doesn't intend to be confronted with a depressed nihilist. My happiness, therefore, has nothing whatsoever to do with the debate. After all, are you happy that children are being driven mad to the point where they murder their own mother and then go to their school to kill their classmates? He was utterly incapable of recognizing these sad realities as stated fact. This makes me wonder what sexual fantasies occupy the minds of people who heartily approve of altering the sexual nature of a child. Such people invariably display an abnormal interest in deviant sexuality. So, how can we sharpen our rhetoric? There are 3 core pillars. Let's discuss them. Aristotle's classic trio is still the best framework. Ethos or credibility. People listen to you if they trust you. To build ethos, show you've done your homework, define terms clearly, cite reliable information. Acknowledge uncertainty where appropriate. Treat your opponent's position fairly before you criticize it. It makes you look more reasonable. 2. logos, reasoning. This is where structure matters. Strong arguments usually follow a clear logical path. State your aim plainly, give reasons that you support that claim, provide evidence or examples for each reason, and anticipate and address likely objections, which is precisely what I did with that fellow in question that I mentioned in the previous section. Avoid vague generalizations, jumping to conclusions, and emotional overreach. And number 3, pathos, which is emotional intelligence. This doesn't mean being theatrical. It means connecting with the audience's values and concerns. Use reliable analogies or stories. Frame ideas in terms that your audience cares about, and show empathy even when disagreeing. Key techniques to strengthen your argumentation. Use precise definitions. Many arguments go wrong because people are debating different definitions. Clarifying terms early prevents confusion and strengthening your position. Ask sharp questions. If someone's argument is fuzzy, targeted questions can gently expose weak points. What evidence leads you to that conclusion is a question that might be asked. How would this idea work in practice is another question. Does this follow from your earlier point is another question. Use strategic techniques, not aggressive ones. Use analogies to make abstract points tangible. Analogies help people see your point instead of merely understanding it intellectually. But keep them tight. Strained analogies backfire. Control structure rather than winning moments. A well-structured argument often beats a flashy counterpunch. Keep circling back to your main point. This is why X remains the stronger position. Stay calm. Emotional steadiness is persuasive. Losing composure weakens ethos. Calm delivery signals confidence and clarity. And concede small points strategically. Concession shows honesty and often strengthens your larger position. I agree that X is a concern. However, it doesn't outweigh Y. Exercises to improve rhetorical skill is the next section. Number 1, the 30-second argument. Practice summarizing your position in a half a minute. This sharpens clarity and prevents rambling. 2, play devil's advocate. Argue the opposite of what you believe. This forces you to understand the structure of both sides, a huge boost to your rhetorical precision. I study what my opponents think and believe and their ideology constantly. Most of you, I've noticed, have no idea what your opponents think. And I know that the people who disagree with me have no idea what I'm thinking, even though I explain it to them clearly and precisely. I'm not that big of a mystery. I say what I mean and mean what I say. Number 3, rewrite messy arguments. Take a sloppy opinion piece or social media rant and rewrite it in a crisp argument. I do this in preparing these blogs and vodcasts all the time. This takes discipline. For example, improve rhetoric for workplace discussions. If you're going to discuss these things in your place of employment, prepare for formal debates, strengthen persuasive writing, learn to dismantle flawed arguments politely. Postmodernism, however, has made the precise use of language needed to debate impossible. Why? It posits that language is a tool of oppression and power. It asserts that words do not actually mean what the dictionary says they mean. I know, this sounds incredible, which is why normal people find it so impossible to comprehend where their ideological opponents are coming from, or even find it hard to understand what they have said since they appear to contradict themselves, which is what this fellow did. Hence my allusion to the Monty Python skit. If you cannot reason with another using effective rhetoric without insulting them to get your point across, then it is no wonder that we have been captured by what evolutionary psychologist Dr. Gad Saad has called suicidal empathy. Here is the overview from his new book, Suicidal Empathy, Dying to Be Kind. I provide the link where you can purchase that fine tome. And I'll read from its notes on the website where you can purchase the book. The best-selling author of The Parasitic Mind shows why empathy in politics leads to civilizational collapse. What happens when a society elevates victimhood to a virtue and decides that punishment is cruel? You get the disease Dr. Gad Saad calls suicidal empathy, and the West may be terminally infected. In his new book, Suicidal Empathy, Saad unleashes a blistering critique of maladaptively irrational altruism that has gripped our culture. The mind parasite hijacked the empathy module of our progressive elite, leading to a catastrophic miscalibration of moral priorities. The results are everywhere, from coddling violent criminals to protecting rapists to branding self-defense as toxic behavior. We are witnessing a civilization in rapid decline. Lunatic policies are instituted because we prioritize the feelings of essentially marginalized groups over the truth. Criminals over victims, and squatters over homeowners. This is not humane. It is an active dismantling of the pillars that keep us safe and free. This crisis of empathy creates a horrifying system of inverse morality, where the strong and successful are demonized and the destructive are celebrated. Just look at the insane inversions we tolerate daily. We prefer illegal migrants over our own legal citizens and veterans, permit drug addicts to threaten children's safety in parks, and elevate transgendered women above biological women in sports and safe spaces. Common sense is dying in a deluge of misguided compassion. Suicidal empathy is your wake-up call. Stop ignoring your survival instincts in the name of political correctness. This isn't just misguided policy. It is the ultimate expression of a culture actively choosing its own demise. So says Dr. Gad Saad, and so says I. These are things to think and pray about on this afternoon of February the 17th. God bless you all. Have a lovely afternoon.